Subscribe now because what you're about to hear is not just another celebrity scandal. It's the catastrophic implosion of one of hip-hop's most iconic brotherhoods, where loyalty, love, and legacies were ripped apart by a single leak. A leak so intimate, so personal, that it didn't just spark outrage. It detonated decades of trust between Dipset legends Jim Jones and Cam'ron. And at the heart of this firestorm is Chrissy, Jim Jones's longtime partner, whose private video, explicit, raw, and never meant for public eyes, erupted across social media, triggering a digital manhunt to find out who was responsible, and all signs started pointing at Cam'ron, his former brother-in-arms, who now sits silently at the center of a storm he may have engineered from the shadows. Because this wasn't just any betrayal, this was biblical, and it began when an anonymous burner Twitter account uploaded a clip with no tags, no followers, and no explanation. But it didn't take long before fans, bloggers, and internet detectives zoomed in, enhanced and decoded every frame. And once Chrissy's face was confirmed, the narrative took a sinister turn, with whispers turning into roars as the public started to believe the unthinkable, that Cam'ron himself had something to do with the leak, and not just as a bystander, but as the puppet master, orchestrating a takedown of his own friend, the same man who helped build Dipset from the ground up. And suddenly their decades-long bond was under a microscope, with fans pulling up past interviews, cryptic Instagram stories, shady business moves, and even footage of Cam throwing subliminal shots in freestyles from years ago. And the picture that emerged was ugly. A rivalry that had been brewing for years behind smiles and sunglasses, a chess game played in the dark between two men who once called each other brothers, but now looked like enemies. And Jim Jones, heartbroken and furious, took to Instagram Live in an unfiltered explosion of emotion, with tears in his eyes and rage in his voice, calling Cam a snake, a traitor, a man who's been envious of him from day one, and the public watched, stunned as the pain poured out in real time. No PR filter, no team-approved script, just raw betrayal. And it wasn't just about the video, it was about the history, about how Cam allegedly withheld tour money, blocked deals, and painted Jim as unreliable to labels. And as Jim shouted into the void, his fans rallied, demanding justice, demanding answers while Cam remained silent, eerily silent, tweeting only, "The truth must be told, even when it hurts." A cold, calculated line that sent shivers through the hip-hop world. And then came the text messages, leaked by an anonymous insider, allegedly between Cam and a mysterious industry figure, where Cam talked about hitting Jim where it hurts. His woman, his money, his fans, a line so brutal it echoed across every platform, from YouTube to Twitter to Clubhouse. And suddenly, this wasn't just a scandal. It was a war plan, a premeditated act of destruction that made fans question everything they thought they knew about Dipset. And then the fallout began. Fast and ruthless, with Jim's endorsement deals dropped overnight, luxury brands pulling back, PR teams in panic, and even Dipset reunion plans scrapped in silence. And if that wasn't enough, rumors emerged that Cam was being sued by a former label boss for financial mismanagement, while whispers of unpaid contracts and shady accounting swirled in the background like vultures circling. And still Cam said nothing. No denial, no empathy, no clarification, just silence. The kind of silence that feels like guilt. And Chrissy, the woman in the center, made her move, unfollowing Cam, archiving old photos, and posting cryptic captions. That only deepened the mystery. Was she just a victim? Or had she known this was coming all along? And some fans started to believe she had warned Jim. Others thought she had more power in this feud than anyone realized. And then the lawsuits began, with Jim filing for emotional distress, defamation, and conspiracy, asking for millions in damages, while Cam fired back, accusing Jim of years of financial manipulation and backdoor deals that used their friendship for leverage. And the courtroom became a battlefield, but the real casualties were the fans, the ones who wore Dipset chains, screamed lyrics at concerts, and believed that brotherhood in hip-hop could survive anything. But this betrayal cut too deep, and as more text messages leaked, the story got darker. Allegations of Cam planning, a full-blown PR assault to destroy Jim's image before a massive business rollout, talks of manipulating media narratives, seeding fake rumors, and burning bridges that could never be rebuilt. And it didn't stop there, because fans started pulling receipts, old photos, backstage footage, suspicious interviews, and the pattern became clearer. Cam had a long history of freezing people out once they outlived their usefulness. And Jim, despite all his loyalty, might have been next on the chopping block. And as all this happened, the public was watching every move, dissecting every post, and realizing that this wasn't just about one video. It was about power, control, and the ugliness that lurks behind hip-hop's most glamorous images. And then came the endorsements. Gone, contracts, canceled, sponsors, silent, as the scandal scorched everything in its path, and the financial hit was massive, not just for Jim, but for Cam too, whose solo career revival stalled, whose business partners backed out, and whose image took a nosedive. And now, in the middle of the ashes, the only question that matters is, was it worth it? Because what began as a whisper became a scream, a scandal that now spans not just social media, but legal courts, financial empires, and broken families. And fans are left to pick sides in a war they never asked to witness. And as Dipset's name gets dragged through digital dirt, the legacy crumbles. One post, one leak, one lawsuit at a time. And now even industry insiders are speaking out, saying, this feud has made execs rethink their support, their contracts, their investments in both men. And what's worse, some are saying this entire disaster could have been avoided if egos hadn't gotten in the way, if old wounds had been healed instead of weaponized. But now it's too late, because what was once sacred has become spectacle. And the last bond holding them together, music, can't fix what's been broken in the public eye. And now Chrissy, once seen as a supporting character, stands at the epicenter of chaos, her silence louder than any statement. And fans wonder, is she protecting herself? Protecting Jim? Or hiding something deeper? And the internet wants answers, not just because they're nosy, but because they feel betrayed too, by a group that once represented strength, unity, and Harlem pride, now reduced to lawsuits, rumors, and emotional breakdowns. And every day that Cam stays silent, the fire grows, because silence isn't neutral. It's a message. And that message has cost him fans, allies, and maybe even his career. And meanwhile, Jim, though emotionally wrecked, continues to fight, to speak, to cry on live streams, to expose receipts. And that vulnerability has made some fans rally harder than ever, while others grow tired, wondering when the feud will end, if it ever will. Because let's be real, this isn't just another rap beef. This is a tragedy, a high-stakes implosion of friendship, business, and trust that shows what happens when private pain becomes public entertainment. And now, everyone's asking, can this be fixed? Can Dipset rise from the ashes? Or is this the end, not just of a group, but of an era? And while lawyers talk, fans tweet, and headlines spin, the silence from Cam is haunting. Because if he's innocent, why not speak? Why not protect Chrissy's name? Why not stand up for the legacy they built together? And some say he's plotting, waiting for the perfect moment to flip the script. Others believe he's guilty, caught red-handed in a revenge plot that went too far. But no matter which side you're on, one thing is clear. This story is far from over, and the damage has already been done. Because even if they reconcile, even if they perform again, the stain of this moment will never wash away. And the hip-hop world is left with a cautionary tale about how fame, money, and ego can turn brotherhood into bloodshed. And the streets will never forget how Cam'ron and Jim Jones went from kings of Harlem to enemies in the court of public opinion.